Happy Sunday. Today, or the other night, I was reading in a book that Stephen suggested to me. Matthias, you know who you are. And the name of this book is 23 Steps to Success and Achievement. And it's a really small book. The book has less than 100 pages in it. And I've skimmed through the book, but I've only read the first chapter in detail, and it was really enough for me. But I'm going to read the whole thing. But I want to share the first chapter with you. And the first chapter is Better Health Ahead. And what this first chapter did for me is that it just shows you more, it showed me more and more how the human mind is so easy to program and to reprogram. And so there's really no excuse in life when we gain the knowledge of reprogramming the mind for us not to evolve into a state of being that we want for ourselves, that we see for ourselves. And in this book, it starts off immediately talking about the first step. And the first step of being healthy is changing your attitude about your health. And so in this book, it starts off saying you're probably already fundamentally healthy, but you go down the road where you have a major ailment and this sort of thing. But it talks about how the first step in reducing these is to cultivate an attitude which reveals the happy thought. And it says to say in here, I have no serious physical defect. My body is fundamentally sound. And it says to repeat that. Even if you have an illness, even if you don't feel good, like I'm so clogged up right now and I'm having some things going on, but when I wake up and my neck hurts, I'm not feeling good, I remind myself that I am fundamentally healthy. I feel good and I'm taking care of myself. And even though I may have some ailments going on right now, I'm not debilitated. I can still think and breathe. Therefore, I have life. And so that taught me to really be more mindful in the energy I give the pain in my body. So if something is hurting all of the time and I'm laying around going, oh my God, my back hurts, my back hurts, my back hurts, my back hurts. Well, I'm not sending the energy of healing to that area. And the same thing goes into our thought process and how we think about ourselves. It goes into our thought process on how we think about each other. And it really is just a matter of thought. And so here's some of the other things that so it says, once you are convinced of this fact, your health will improve greatly. You will begin to trust your body more. You will expect it to function smoothly, to overcome disease, to resist virus. Confidence pays good dividends here as in everything. I mean, this is some magic stuff in this little less than 100-page book. I mean, because it just tells you right now, trust, know it, have it. It's that easy. It's the power of manifestation. We know that we can send thought to each other just by thinking it. So you can really think to heal your body, to send the energy to that place to heal it versus sending an energy of plague. And the same thing is with other people. If you're in yourself, if you're continuously going at yourself and other people in a way that doesn't leave the space for evolvement, then how are we supposed to evolve in those scenarios? Humans are really simple. When we step outside of the way that everyone has always told us how things should be, it's really all energy. It's really cool. So then it keeps going on. So then it's talking about that. Oh, and then this is the other great thing that I liked. It says the fresh air is essential to life. is a fact known by all. That fresh air is essential to life is a fact known by all. Yet many spend a lot of money and hours each day deliberately contaminating the air they breathe. The moral is obvious and reinforced by medical pronouncements on the relationship between lung cancer and smoking. I mean, that's one of those moments, that just solidifies more of the illusionment in which humans live in. I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to drink alcohol. I used to do drugs. I used to eat things and still do sometimes. The food thing is, but I used to trash myself out in ways that I knew I was trashing myself out. But I still continued to do those things. And so it's a process of elimination. And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like, people are like, oh, but I've been drinking for 20 years. Okay, well, are you going to continue drinking or are you going to stop now? Oh, I've been smoking for 30 years. My lungs are probably trashed. Well, but did you know that it only takes 7 years for the lungs to regenerate themselves? Doesn't mean there are other parts in the body may not be affected from smoking cigarettes, but if you stop smoking, you give yourself longevity. Some like to live rather than eating to live. This is something that I talked about in the video the other day. There's so much controversy or chaos or whatever swirling around about eating vegan, and people will be rude to other people if they're not vegan also. Like, if that doesn't make sense. It's about conscious eating. That's what it's about, consciously eating. If humans are so gluttonous that we have to cut down rainforests in other countries, and even in the United States, it's not what it used to be. And it's to be able to feed humans. So think about that. It says, they stuff down large quantities of cell-clogging, fat-making food, completely ignoring the findings of dietetics. People in no sense gluttons are convinced they are convinced that they should never rise from a meal unless they feel full. This ill becomes human beings. Animals stuff themselves until they can take no more. That's pretty amazing too, when you think about it. And like I've had animals in my life, dogs, and my dogs have never been one of those dogs that rushes to the bowl to eat as much as a human gives it, and then you can tell it still isn't satisfied. My dogs, I've always left food out for my dogs. They can graze and eat it whenever they want, and that's the way it's been. And my dogs have never overate. And so I think about, and now that doesn't mean it's the human's fault necessarily. Different dogs, different breeds have a lot of stuff going on. However, if the human is going to have a dog in its home, it's up to the human to train that dog to do what it wants it to, right? Humans are doing the same thing to humans. Okay, so it says, the general rule should be, give the body what it needs in the quantity it needs it. Aim at a moderate, well-balanced diet. This includes adequate proteins, fruit, vegetables, and water. All of those things play a role in the way that your body, the longevity of the body, the flow of the human thought, all of those things play a role in the way that we literally engage with ourselves. We don't even realize it. If the human, it's just like, look at it in this context. Say there's an animal that's rabid. It's got some illness. It's got rabies. It's running around biting people. It's sick. Meaning that animal has that illness, is not acting in its true authentic light. Well, the same thing is with humans. If you drink alcohol, and humans like to say this, but I only drink a little bit. But if you're only drinking a little bit at the time over the course of 50 years, what are you doing to your body? And so when the human becomes ill in its energy flow, then that's going to cause the human to become not well. We're not walking around, putting humans down for a toothache that they're not dealing with because they don't have money to go to the dentist because of the food that they choose to eat. See what I'm saying? We want to point the blame on everyone else, but it's about what we put in our bodies, what we think about our bodies. And so while everyone wants to tell everyone what they should be eating and how they should be eating it, really take a look at what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're telling other people. Because the power of influence is very strong. And if you're running around telling people not to eat meat, but you're eating a bunch of soy protein-based fake foods, then how authentic is that? It's still not real fluid for the body. And so if when we get out of the business of trying to tell each other what to do and just look at the outside world as a tool on what we need to do to fix what's already there, then we can get a lot more done. The next part of this book, in this same chapter, it says, see you get sufficient sleep. This is what I made a video about yesterday about sleep. It says most people require 7 or 8 hours, though some do with less, especially as they get older. If you don't sleep well, this book will help you, because this book tells you how to chill out. It helps you get in line. And it really is important. Even if we don't sleep all the time, it's important that the human gets mind rest, which means turn off the external stimulus to let the mind rest. That is how the human recharges its energy. We don't realize that, we're realizing it now. I'm going to stop talking in that context because we are realizing it now. Humans we only have so much energy when we wake up in the morning. The brain's been at rest. The melatonin has released, that we've built up all day. The pineal gland excretes melatonin for sleep. So if you want to look into sleep, look into stimulating your brain. And so when the human only has a certain amount of energy every day, and that includes our families, ourselves, work, thinking about getting to work, thinking about feeding ourselves, thinking about taking a shower and going to this dental appointment, and I got to send in that payment and go to this birthday and this school outing and this and this and this. It's no wonder people are so exhausted. And it's because we feel like we have to include ourselves into what everyone else is doing so that we can justify our lives, so that we feel happy. But we're not, because we're not living according to ourselves internally in the way that we should live. I mean, for me, for instance, I'm building a business. I don't have a lot of money. I don't go out and spend. I'm pinching pennies, but I'm happy because my energy has shifted. I see the outside world as a tool to create. It doesn't make my life what it is. And when we recognize that that is the way everyone really is, we can go, okay, I see it now. I have the focus. I can put all this outside stuff in that box over there, and I can focus on this one. And that's where we activate, where we get introduced into our mysticism, which is really what we've always been. We just didn't know it. We've all been manifesting our whole lives. Okay, so the next thing it says is that you are psychosomatic. All this is in a 10-page chapter in the first page of this book that I'm reading. And it's wonderful. It says, this means that your mind and body are interrelated. The term comes from two Greek words meaning soul, or the mind, and the body. Medical science asserts that the mind exerts an incredible influence on the body because we're energetic beings, and it all starts with thought and feeling. A striking example is that of a ghost pregnancy. When a woman may so desire a child as to produce in her body all the symptoms of a pregnancy, yet not actually have conceived. And if you just think about that, that is pretty amazing. So if a woman is convinced in her mind that she's pregnant and then can have all the symptoms just because that's what her mind wanted, that's some magic stuff. And so if we realize that the human mind can create physical feelings, then we can send the thought to heal. That's what's so cool. That is the magic. So it says the positive thoughts and attitudes advocated at the beginning of this chapter will now seem to be justified. Desire good health, think good health, and expect it, and you are on a way, you go a long way towards ensuring it. Your good health is your birthright. Ooh, I love that. Good health is our birthright as humans. Anything less is subnormal and an imposition. From this moment, then accept that your health is taking a turn for the better. Radiance, abounding health will be yours. Other important factors of success and achievement, there's 4 things that he lists now, and it's keep yourself happy. There's 4 ways how to do it, and these are the ways that I talk about too, which is really great. It says, come to terms with your job and learn to like it. Or alternatively, find one you do like. This is a big one for me. I worked 20 years in the restaurant business and I loved it. But then I got older and I got tired and I didn't want to do that anymore. And so now I'm creating a different business. But one of the things that I've always done in the restaurant business that I've always been proud of is that, I never really had any crappy bosses. I never really worked in really any crappy places. And I didn't really work with a lot of crappy people. And do you know why? Because I made that choice. I told myself I refuse to work for someone that will treat me any less than I treat myself and how I treat others. And I've avoided those things because I had that mindset from very early on. No one is going to, people can say whatever they want, but when you spend more of your time at work, or if not the same amount of time than you spend at home, that's your second home. You got to make it comfortable. It's got to feel good for you. It's got to drive you and make you want to be better. If you're not in a job that's doing that, either make that job be that, or go find someone else, or go find someone or something else. I mean, that's it for me. Like when I would start a new job, my intuitional, energy receptors, which I now know I've always had, is that I'm able to read a scenario and to decide whether I want to be in it or not. And then I make it my own, like just by being me. It's not like I set out to do anything, but it's just my work ethic. I had a great mentor, the only mentor really I had that spent some time with me in the restaurant business, and he taught me a lot. And one of the things he told me is that to be a good manager, you're really a leader, and you have to lead by example. And that's the way I've always been. Like, I never expect anyone to do anything that I don't do myself. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. So number 2, and this is a huge one. This is a huge one. Number 2, it says, at least have one hobby, something which satisfies your soul. I have gone through creative dips in my life. When I was a child, creativity was not explored with me. I didn't have parents that encouraged me to color or paint or do anything but read, and which my mother read. So I picked that up and I kept my nose in books my entire childhood. It was my escape from the reality that I was being raised in. And so as I became an adult, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a creative person. Like I like to paint and I like to make collages and, listen to music. And I love creativity because that's who we all are. We're here to create the visions we see within ourselves. So if you don't have a hobby, even if it's taking a piece of paper and a pair of scissors and making designs out of it, it can be anything. Something that makes you feel good, that gets you to think. If you don't have that in your life, that is the main focus that you should turn your attention onto. Because if you don't have a creative outlet, you're not lighting the flame of your soul. And number 3 is a really great one too. Number 3 is find time to serve your community apart from your daily work. When I was younger, one of the things that I would do, and when I think back on it, I used to say it was an excuse so that I can get out of my house when I was a child, but really it's just because it's who I am. I used to volunteer a lot. I volunteered at nursing homes and I loved it when I was a kid. Loved it. I used to play all the games with all the people there and listen to all their wisdom and their stories and paint all of the ladies' fingernails. And it was just really rewarding for me as a child because I wasn't taught anything when I was a kid. Literally, not one syllable of advice, like not one sentence, literally. And so I got to learn about what not to do. And so it's like I automatically found those other outlets. And then I volunteered like in a hospital. And then as an adult, I volunteered at like a Christian service center that was a food bank that helped people with their bills. I've used those resources myself. And so I like to give back to those resources that I've used. That's what they're there for people to help, not to use it forever. Okay, and so number 4 really defines number 1. And number 4 is arrive at a philosophy of life, religious or otherwise. And so what that means is that we have to get internal with ourselves. Because really, energy is the religion of all things. And when we can get in tune with ourselves and our energy, then we become happier. Now, a lot of people go through the awakening process and they have this preconceived notion that it's just going to be rainbows and unicorns. And it is, but it's a balance of humans and rainbows and unicorns. It's interesting. And then we start to find the humans that are all about the rainbows and unicorns too. So if anyone tells you that, oh, you just think life is about unicorns and rainbows, you tell them you believe it and you know it. Because that just means that that's someone that hasn't found their internal light yet. And that's okay. When we let go of the attachment of holding on to what we think other people should do and just start practicing that ourselves, then we're preaching what we practice. So it says that these factors will occupy and satisfy your mind and will harmony there. Your nervous system will be free from tension, and this will result in your body functioning like a well-lubricated machine. And when I finished with this first chapter, I was just like, 10 pages of greatness right here. And it really just, it's simplistic, because what that book is telling us is that everything is thought. Whether someone else thought of it and created a scenario that you're now involved in, or it's a scenario that you thought about and created yourself. But everything you see, every billboard, every song, everything you eat, it's all a thought from someone else. Have a blessed Sunday. I love you to the moon.